This episode of the SwitchCast is produced by Gabe Bourgeois, our honored Patreon member and SwitchCat.
Hi everybody, I'm Casey.
And I'm JV.
And this is the SwitchCast, the podcast for the Nintendo Switch Sojourner. And we have just another big episode for you guys this week. As maybe I should just start telling you guys when we don't have a big show. We should just tell you, okay, we got a fast, small, pretty crummy show for you this week. Not a lot of stuff to talk about, but
yeah, that's always something that we've kind of had in the background. We look at the show notes to see what we're going to cover, and then we're like, oh, is this going to be a small episode? And it almost never ends up being a small episode.
I think I'm just conditioned from the beginning. We started when we first did the show, and the first year was just the rumors of the Switch coming out, and we had to really scour the internet for anything to talk about.
Yeah, it was definitely difficult to keep up a consistent schedule with interesting things to talk about early on.
Yeah, so that's still in the back of my head. I'm still not adjusted to the fact that we always have stuff to review. I feel like there's a big game to talk about, and there is a big game to talk about this week because we have the Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze to go over.
Ooh, yeah.
JV's done his robot kit finally for the Joy-Cons for the Nintendo Labo. Not to mention, you also got to play a little Immortal Redneckin'.
Yep, just a little bit, just a tad. Just
okay, sounds good.
And I'll be reviewing that as well, so...
Well, you got a lot to catch up on because you were out last week due to your tragic events with your car.
Honestly, it wasn't nearly as tragic as people made it out to be.
Yeah.
The next morning after that whole car incident, people on the Discord chat were like, "Are you okay? Are you hurt? Is everything all right?" And it was incredibly sweet and kind of everyone to be concerned about it. But no, it was just a minor fender bender situation, not anything major.
And actually, the biggest piece of support we got from the community, which we could always rely on, is when we need a stand-in for a guest host, our patrons come through. And I just want to thank again for Elo Gubna for showing up to fill in there. And as is my general protocol, I will always be calling upon our Patreon members. As part of their reward, they get basically the first dibs to come on the show, even though it kind of helps us. We need people to come on to help just fill out the show and not have to listen to me talk by myself on those weird occasions. But everyone always is so ecstatic to come on. It's really quite gratifying.
Yeah, absolutely. Every once in a while it's nice having them on. It's cool to get the perspective of community members as well, even if it's to the sacrifice of my presence.
It's a trade-off. It's certainly a trade-off. But yeah. I just want to take this opportunity to thank all of our Patreon members, because this is my once in a blue moon little reminder to everybody that is what keeps the show going. We are able to do the show without any kind of advertisements because of all the great support that you guys do on Patreon. And if you are listening to this and you want to maybe pitch in a little bit and help support the show and help us expand and do new things like we're planning on doing all the time, always finding new ways to engage the community, go check out patreon.com/theswitchcast. You can pledge support, either $1, $2, $5, $10, whatever you feel comfortable with. That's really all I care about. Is whatever is right for you. And then we have some little rewards built into different backer levels that will send you out
little trinkets and just stuff to say thank you.
And as I mentioned, those are the people I call on if I ever need a fill-in for a guest host. So if you ever wanted to come on and say something or talk about a topic, that's probably the best way to get your voice on the show. Yeah.
Just hope for a tragic incident with one of us, and then boom, you're in.
Oh, now I'm starting to suspect that there was some foul play afoot with your car getting hit, JV.
It's true. And Hello Governor is a trucker, so it has those automobile connections.
It's all coming together. It's all coming together.
Plot is afoot. Now, speaking of which, I am incredibly excited for a very recent announcement that happened during last week's episode.
Yes, that's right. I can't believe you weren't here for that announcement.
I know! It's crazy! So, if you all don't know, and I'm pretty sure you covered this, Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate is finally confirmed to come out on the Switch. Monster Hunter is one of those huge shared interests that Casey and I have.
Yeah.
Franchise-wise, and it's one of those, it was a situation where I play Monster Hunter World on the PS4. Yeah. But I feel bad for my Switch brothers and sisters for not having a Monster Hunter game, and now we have a game that we can finally play together as a community.
And just to show how much, like, the level of hype and anticipation for this game is, we started the Monster Hunter channel on the Discord chat, which is, again, another great way to join the community here. But as soon as I started it, it's already flooded with conversation, people sharing information with, especially those who haven't played the series before but are interested. They're already sharing videos, tips on how to, like, go into the game and prepare yourself for the type of challenge it is, planning out what their party configurations are going to be.
Yeah, it's excellent. Because honestly, Monster Hunter is a franchise that has a bit of a learning curve, and being able to rely on such an active and supportive community to get past that initial hurdle is so crucial and essential, I think.
I mean, that's why I play Gunner, actually, in Monster Hunter traditionally, because the Gunner classes are typically the teamwork classes. Like, if you have a group of players, that is the job for, I am here to make sure I amplify the power of everybody else, and I give them the support and, like, mesh the team together.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting, because I'm definitely one of the head firsts. Get in front of the monster, take the hits. I'm a Lancer, Gun Lancer, or Charge Blade, and it's funny, someone on Discord...
Oh, you can't get more in front of their face than that, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You know, that's how I play. But anyway, we can talk about Monster Hunter all day, all episode, so we should probably run down what we're actually going to be talking about in this episode.
So I already mentioned what we're going to talk about in the game time this week, and we have, of course, a lot of news, including a new Octopath trailer came out, so we're going to talk about that, plus some more details or more hints at what the next Pokemon game could be, and a community pulse that will specifically address one of the interesting possibilities that has come out of this that I possibly suspected, but didn't really think would happen. It was just like a kind of a pipe dream I thought might happen. So we'll see how that goes in the community pulse and all that. All right, so let's move into the game time.
Let's do it.
All right, game time. And JV, you know, since we haven't gotten to hear too much from you, I think you should lead us off this week with the, well, first off, I want to hear about finally getting time to build your robot kit for the Labo.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, it's definitely interesting to hear the experiences of your variety kit versus my robot kit, because I really felt like sitting down to build the robot kit was actually more of an investment of time compared to what you had to experience.
How much time was it actually?
So it took me about 4.5 hours to fully complete the project, and that's 4.5 hours in a row, sitting down, building the whole thing. The process itself was fun, and the cardboard folded a lot more smoothly as I expected. And you're right, the instructions where you got to tap on the screen to move it into each step and having the animation, it was incredibly helpful. I was surprised at just how clear the steps were for something as seemingly complicated as the robot kit.
It's funny because, like, when I was doing some of the variety kit ones, especially when there were the initial steps of each piece of cardboard, it was like, all right, just fold everything that needs to be creased in advance.
Yeah.
And I would almost just be rushing through that. And it took me a while to find out how to fast forward. I didn't realize you could fast forward it right away and you could stretch it. But then I would just be like, okay, I'd fold everything just really fast. And I think I did make one or two mistakes where I folded something I wasn't supposed to. Not that it broke anything, but I think like I have a couple of things that the tension is not as optimal because I bent something that shouldn't have been bent. But it still worked out.
Honestly, I was incredibly meticulous about this process. I was paranoid that I would fold the wrong thing, that I would, compromise the structural integrity of the project. Because when I picked it up, I did feel like it was thin, and I was worried that it would fold too easily. As you start building the project, things fold. There's a lot more, strength to the folds once it's all put together. And I wasn't particularly concerned after it was all, connected. Yeah. But during the process, it was fun.
Did you do it all by yourself, or did Dave?
I did do it all by myself.
Okay.
I did. It was something that I intended to have captured on some sort of film, but it didn't work out quite as well as I hoped.
Yes, you told me about the stuff, the sad loss of the video.
Yeah, such is life with me, apparently. But it was fun. I actually enjoyed it like I would enjoy building Legos. So, with Legos, you follow instructions, you put stuff together, it's pretty laid out for you. But with this, I was enjoying it, but after about maybe the 3-hour mark, I was starting to get a little tedious.
Okay.
I was like,
so you didn't take any like real breaks in the middle?
No, I just went all in with a full 4 hours. It was fun. As I said, it was getting a little bit tedious at the end, and I guess I could have taken a break, but I felt like I was already getting close to finishing. So, it was that type of situation. But it's 4 hours. It was a fun experience. I've heard people do it in more. I've heard people do it in less, maybe about 3.5 hours. But I can see the 3 to 5 hour mark being a solid number of for how you can estimate the time. Okay. Now, once I was done building the kit, now you have to actually play the game and implement the game with it.
Well, actually, wait, before the game, there was one other thing, because you had to deal with more straps. Of those like strings and straps and all that stuff. Yeah, so that was something I only dealt with very slightly. Like there was like a couple of rubber bands in the last thing I did, and I haven't yet even done anything with like the shoestrings yet. So how was it integrating those with all the other parts?
You would think that it would be really cumbersome to deal with those, but I wasn't particularly. I didn't really have any problems with it. Actually, the instructions were clear enough that dealing with straps just felt like another step in the process. Okay, cool. So, it is good because dealing with straps with cardboard, you have to kind of worry about, is it in the right direction? Is there a twist? But overall, I didn't really have a problem with it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So the game itself, once you pop it in, it was actually a really cool interface. I liked how blocky and vivid the colors were for the menu. Okay. And the game mode that's really pushed forward to you is the robot mode.
Okay, so there was multiple game modes to do with this?
I wouldn't call it so much multiple. There's probably 2 full-fledged game modes, and the rest are just extraneous stuff. Okay. The primary mode is the robot mode, and that is where you are taking control of a giant robot mech, and you're dropped into a city filled with destructible towers and structures. And the object of that mode is for you to move around and destroy as many things as possible within a certain time limit. And then from there, that keeps track of the points, and you get scored at the very end of your session. Once you actually put the backpack on your back, and the headset on, as well as your foot straps to track your foot movements, you kind of feel more immersed into that experience. And I was like, hey, this is really fun. I feel like a kid, and I'm just playing around. And the control scheme actually felt pretty responsive, which was a surprise to me.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So your arms move, and trigger punch is kind of similar to, arms. The movement itself was a little bit tricky to get used to at first. So you walk in place, and each step you take with your feet triggers a step for the robot.
Okay, but it will always move forward even if you're just walking in place?
Yeah, you're walking in place, so you step forward and your robot steps forward. And it's actually kind of interesting because the animation for the step is really blocky and robotic, which is, I guess kind of thematic.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like step, 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 and it was fun. The rhythm to get that going took getting used to, but that's fine. Now you actually lean left and right to change the directions. So if you want to move to the left, you lean left, start stepping. Move to the right, lean right, start stepping, and after a while, that felt pretty natural. You can actually lift your arms up to the side, and that triggers the jets on your backpack so you can fly up. And,
cool.
Yeah, it's actually pretty cool, and you can start hitting things up in the sky. And what the coolest part is when you physically crouch, you go into tank mode, which allows you to actually move more quickly like a automobile.
Oh, wow. So it's like Transformers. All right.
You are a Transformer. Totally. And you even have a laser cannon that you can shoot things with, too. So, overall, that was pretty cool. I think the functionality was enjoyable, especially during the first few times that you play it. It's really quite a fun and freeing experience. What was even cooler was how you had the visor on your head. It feels like, it feels like an extraneous headpiece that you build separately, but no, it serves a purpose. Once you have the visor up, you see yourself in third person. But once you bring the visor down, it shifts the camera to first person, and you can look around a lot more freely. And it's kind of like a pseudo VR system.
That's that I like that. Like little touches like that show that there was nothing extraneous in this whole device.
Yeah, it seems so unnecessary, but it's just a touch that adds immersion to the experience.
Now, I was curious about one thing when I was actually seeing this robot kit first off.
Yeah.
Was how well it can accommodate different body sizes. Like if a 10-year-old wears this versus you, a fully grown adult, well, adult with air quotes.
Right.
Does it seem like it could easily fit any size person?
Yeah, I don't think it's too big of a problem. The straps are you're building the whole backpack, so the straps are adjustable based on the sides, and you actually attach the feet sensors to each foot. So it's not like it's anything. It's not like it's really dependent on the size of your feet or the length of your legs. I don't see there being a problem based on body shape.
Okay.
Which is something I'm pretty sure they set up on purpose. Now, speaking of body shape, I actually kind of found this to be interesting with the robot mode. Whenever you're playing the game and you're breaking buildings to gain points, it actually keeps track of the number of calories that it estimates that you burned.
Clever.
Yeah, so it does have, you input your weight in a calorie section mode, and it has a calorie chart that keeps track of the calories you burn over time, and it even has a report of the calories you burn over multiple sessions. So that's something that you can, I guess, use to exercise within your in front of your TV. And so there might be a more practical purpose for this.
Okay, I'm calling it now that there's going to be a Labo fitness setup, and you're going to make all kinds of training equipment. It's going to be like a Bowflex. Like you're going to make little cardboard dumbbells, but like with adjustable, or ones that you could just be like, do aerobics sort of thing.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's possible. And using the cardboard is a lot easier for Nintendo to produce than some weird, janky plastic peripheral you have to attach, you know?
Yeah, like this is the new reincarnation for Wii Fit. I can see somewhere in
those
here.
peripherals.
Yes.
So I will talk about customization, because how they handle customization is actually pretty cool too.
Okay.
So within the starting menu, there is a mode where you can customize the robot, and you actually have a little customization key or screw that you insert into the side of the robot kit backpack, and you can use that to turn as a knob, and that knob lets you customize the colors of your robot.
Oh,
yeah, and the degrees of coloring that it provides you is really cool. There's one hole for 1 degree, a second hole, I think one hole for reds, one hole for blue, one hole for greens, and that really lets you get a wide spectrum of colors that you can do. I wasn't a fan of how blocky the whole situation was, though, because your robot is set up with different, essentially, cubes. And you can color the individual cubes, but, there's no real decals or stripes or anything. But it was still a cool touch. The last mode, and I think this is the meatiest mode of the whole experience, is challenge mode.
Okay.
So the challenge mode is probably where most of the game comes from. Because robot mode, you're just in there, you're killing things, sure, that's it. But it's not something that will really pull you back into the game to play it multiple times. The challenge mode is an actual game.
Oh, okay. All right. See, this is something I was going to ask you is how much meat is there to this actual title here?
Yeah, so challenge mode consists of 5 sections that focuses on a specific functionality of the robot kit. And each of those 5 sections have 3 levels each. And the challenges stretch different types of control schemes and focuses on what you can take advantage of. So some of the levels focus on fighting and defeating certain enemies, while others are focused on moving through a stage in a specific way. And by beating each level, you ultimately start unlocking more capabilities of your robot, which is actually pretty neat.
What kind of capabilities does it get?
Yeah, so sometimes you could get like energy blasts that you could use, or even a cool downward kick that destroys platforms below you. It's just that type of stuff that gives a little bit of an extra progression feel, which is pretty cool. And there are even, bosses that you have to fight later on, which is, I don't know if that's a spoiler.
Oh, no, I don't think there's spoilers for Labo.
I know, but yeah, it feels pretty good. Now, that being said, this game is very light.
Right, okay.
Like, the challenge mode, you could probably beat in about 3 hours, maybe 4 hours.
That's actually more time than I would expect.
Yeah, I think it's 5 sections. The 3 levels are about 5 minutes each. So, maybe 2.5 hours. And some you have to repeat if you don't defeat it. I'd give it about 2.5 to 3 hours.
Okay.
So
I think I'm going to go on a limb. I think the next thing that they want us to experience with all these Toy-Con, and the thing that we probably will have to dabble in at some point, but I'm not sure how prepped we are for.
Yeah.
Is the garage, is the programming and tweaking and making of our own uses of these Toy-Cons.
Well, yeah, exactly. That was actually one of the concerns I had when getting the robot kit. I was concerned that we wouldn't get the Toy-Con garage in this version. But no, we got it too. So
okay, yeah.
You don't need to get the variety kit if you're just looking for the Toy-Con garage. You can get the robot kit by itself, and that should do it. And that should give you access to that. Now, there is also a 2-player versus mode that I didn't get to play because it requires 2 robot kits.
Okay, so you need somebody else, or you can't play like online versus.
No, there's not going to be online for this. Definitely not. But it does seem like it might be fun, and it's kind of similar to. I feel like it would be similar to Rock'em Sock'em Robots, that type.
Makes sense. That seems quite appropriate.
So overall, it was a fun experience, considering the fun I had with robot mode, plus challenge mode, plus building the kit itself. I'd say it's about a good 7-8 hour experience.
Solid.
Yeah, but it does lack any depth or reason to play more than once or twice.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a general theme for those games. And I do think that, like I said, it's the development and diving into that Toy-Con garage mode that I think is what the longevity and what people are going to get out of this other than the novelty of building and doing this really weird, unique thing.
I do feel like the variety kit, though, does give a lot more interesting variety of experiences. So if I were to pick one over the other, I would actually probably recommend the variety kit.
I could see that. It is nice that it's broken down into lots of little things, and it's not like putting all your eggs in one basket. It's not, you can see like what one thing is a little more fun than the other. Like some people might like the race car game, some might like the fishing rod thing, and you have all these tools now with which to make a variety of different garage programs so that you can really experiment with. So I could see that.
I will say though, I'm glad I got the robot kit just because I have a personal appreciation for robots as a theme, and if for whatever reason you find this to work out as a good workout experience, calorie tracking could be helpful. So
I think that's actually pretty cool. In that, I think if they really focus on that in something in the future, I think it will be pretty phenomenal. Actually,
yeah,
I could see that being an actual full game of fitness, not just, hey, we're going to make the toy cons and then you make your own thing. That's fine too. I'm sure people will do that. But I think if they really branded one as the fitness Toy Con collection, that could go like gangbusters.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And honestly, it would be a really easy sell to parents, because I know child fitness is something that's really big, and integrating the creativity of building something with Toy Cons and adding a fitness element to it, that just adds up into something that could really sell.
Awesome. All right, very cool. I'm glad you had fun with it. And yeah, in the future, we'll see if we ever get around to that garage thing. But that seems like that's a little bit of a hurdle.
I think it's its own beast.
It is its own beast.
It is its own
you have
beast.
to have that inspiration, I guess.
Yeah, that's for sure.
All right. Before you get to talk about Immortal Redneck, I did want to come in and break it up. I wanted to talk about Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze.
Yeah, so this is Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is actually a Wii U game that they ported over to the Switch, but it was one of those games that people didn't really get to play that much because it was on the Wii U.
I know what, I never played this before.
Yeah.
So I went into this totally fresh, and I can see why they wanted to port this over to the Switch, because yes, this definitely has something that I think it's almost like a shame that more people didn't play this, because I was very impressed and totally actually caught off guard by how great of a platformer this is.
Really? Cool.
No, I was really impressed, and I'm not generally a platformer guy. I've never I enjoy Mario games, and I've told you I've had fun with Kirby games in the past, but they're not games that I really get hyped over,
Yeah, it makes sense.
I was fairly hyped to play this when I put it in. I wasn't expecting anything special, but I clicked with Donkey Kong Country a lot, and actually, I didn't even care that much about the old Donkey Kong Country games. I played
really?
I had the one on the SNES Classic, and they're fun, but again, it wasn't wowie for me. It wasn't my thing. I think what this one does is, how I say Kirby is the platformer for people who aren't looking for a challenge. It's easier. Right. It's a lighter thing. It's, there's Mario, and then there's Kirby is if you're not
Kirby is definitely one that you just want to pop in and have fun without any specific worries about challenge.
This goes in the other direction.
Huh.
This is the platformer, the Nintendo platformer, for people who are looking for a bit of a challenge, who are looking for something that actually will have teeth and will bite back and make you think and will have a few tense moments. It's actually pretty hard at points.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way for it to claim its own platforming identity within the Nintendo franchises.
So it starts off, it's Donkey Kong and his family. They're all gathered around celebrating his birthday or whatever. And there's some ship of these Viking animal things that come out in some boat, and they freeze everything and they take over his island. Whoop-de-doo. Now Donkey Kong's got to get back and, kick them off the island. No
Right,
need
I
for
mean,
much of a story.
It's you don't really play these games for the deep philosophical story or anything. So.
I will say, though, the theming of the characters and the design are all really cool and unique. They all the bosses and all the main characters that you do face have a certain theme. Like in the second island, there's like all these owls that you see around on the stages, and they all kind of fit like the theme of the big owl boss that you see later on, and they all come out of eggs that drop out of the sky, and they have little Viking helmets and all that, and
right,
it just kind of fits. Like everything meshes with the boss character eventually, so
which is pretty cool. I mean, that's something that you really want when it comes to level design and character design.
No, the level design is so beautiful. The level and the stages, because you know how like in Mario, no one really cares about the logic, right? There's just floating platforms. There's things that pop out of pipes or platforms that move in this weird way. If you look at every single stage of Donkey Kong Country, there's a reason for why everything does what it does. If there's a falling platform, it's because you see that it's built on like rickety wood, and that when you step on it, it starts falling apart. If there's a floating platform, it's because you're in the middle of a tornado and everything's being thrown about in the air because of, you're in there. Everything, like, everything moves in with a reason. And it kind of tells the story of the stage as you go through it. And there's some really intense, like, climax stages.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, no, yeah, there's, there's those carts, a lot of the games have
minecart levels.
Yeah, like
that's
the minecart.
Classic Donkey Kong Country.
And there's some, they start off, you're jumping over pits and all that. But eventually they get this really intense part where you're in some sort of, like, log flume ride, whatever, and there's like a big buzzsaw that breaks off of a piece of machinery, and it's chasing you. And while it's chasing you, it's chewing up the wood floors, and it's chewing up everything, and it's spitting out the platforms that you have to jump on and across while you're racing. And it just becomes this very intense, epic scene with this giant, scary blade, breathing down your neck as you go. And
it's like an actual saw blade.
Yeah, it's like a
that
giant.
Threatens to cut you in half or slice you open.
And you know what? I died on that many times, but the game's pretty fast about respawning you and getting you right back into it. A lot of checkpoints on the stages, lots of points where you get to a certain little piglet or whatever who saves where you are, and that's fine. So it's not like there's just one halfway point. So you get through a hard part, you can just go back, and you get a lot of lives like in any Mario type game. So it's not a big deal, but you do have to know what you're doing eventually to get through a lot of these really tense scenes like that. And it all plays out very cinematic. Like there's a lot of, even at the beginning of a stage, like when you just load up a normal stage, there's usually some sort of like panning camera to show you the world, and it might be some choreographed scene of the monster or the animals in the area, and Donkey Kong slamming in and interacting with the characters there.
Okay, so there is like a degree of cinematics involved with the introduction of each stage.
Every introduction, and especially before the boss fights, there's like usually a pretty fun little scene. Like the on one of them, you just see like the owl guy. One of the owls brings it like a banana, and he like crushes it with a giant like mallet. And you see the reaction of Donkey Kong when he's like, oh, like they're like as if they just watched like his grandfather be executed in front of him. They have this horrible reaction. It's really funny though. Speaking of his grandfather and stuff, there are the other characters are involved in the game as well, because you can find in some of the barrels, you can either get Cranky Kong, Diddy Kong, or Dixie Kong as kind of a sidekick, and they'll ride on your shoulder. And Dixie Kong gives you a little, like, she spins her hair and, like, will give you a little levitation for a second where you can, like jump a little higher. Diddy Kong lets you hover in place. Like Dixie gives you a little added height on your jumps, whereas Diddy Kong will let you hover for a few seconds. And then Cranky Kong has the cane attack, kind of like Uncle Scrooge in DuckTales.
Yeah, it makes sense. So
he has, like, the Shovel Knight jump.
Okay, yeah, downward spike then.
Yeah, and he lets you could do that, and you could jump off of like even dangerous spike traps and stuff like that. So they all have different uses, and sometimes you have a choice of which one you want, and they're all good in different ways, which is kind of fun. And when you have one on your back, it gives you another like 2 hearts of health, basically. And when you lose those 2 extra hearts, you lose the sidekick. So it adds some spice, adds a lot of variety, and it gives you a little extra powers.
Now, I know they were advertising the Funky Kong mode. That's new to the Switch version.
Yes.
Do you know what that's about?
Yeah, so Funky Kong, and in fact, I think he's the default mode, but I would strongly suggest against actually starting with him unless you're not looking for the challenge that I was talking about before. Funky Kong is basically easy mode for the game. Funky Kong himself has a double jump. He has this surfboard. He's like the surfer dude, Donkey Kong character. So first off, he can double jump. He can hover, so he can make his falls go slower. He has extra hit points, and he can ride his surfboard on top of spikes and stuff, so you don't have to worry about spike traps or anything like that.
Gotcha.
So he's just super powered in every way. It's like you constantly have all 3 of the sidekick characters and in one character with
why
extra
isn't
hit
he
points.
the main character?
I know, that's the question. It's like, why isn't he the hero? He seems like so unbelievably powerful compared to them. But it is a two-edged sword, because these levels were not designed with him in mind. So you actually miss out on so much of the game when you can just double jump over half the obstacles, and you don't have to worry about the spike traps as much.
Right.
It can be more fun for some people. I could see that, 'cause, like I said, this game is not light on the difficulty. In fact, some people were watching me play and they were like, wow, that looks too intense for me. I don't think I can handle that scene right there, right?
Really?
But you know what? If that is you, Funky Kong will probably alleviate all of that.
Honestly, it does sound like Funky Kong mode would be perfect for speedrunners.
That, I guess, that's an option too. Speaking of speedrunning, though, there is the option, you can, on certain stages, they do let you try to do a speed run, and it has a timer, and you can try to beat the stage in a certain amount of,
how cool. So it's built in.
Yeah, and you can do that with Funky Kong or Donkey Kong, whatever like style you want to go for. If you're not looking for speed, there are other things also to look for, like there are the KONG letters to get on every stage. There's these puzzle pieces you can try to collect, and they're hidden in a lot of real ways. Like there's so many secret rooms on all the stages that...
Oh, so there's secret rooms, secret pieces, different placements for...
And some of them are hidden pretty cleverly too, actually. There's a lot of stuff to dig up.
I do remember in the original Donkey Kong Country, I think it was the first stage... you're dropped down on the stage and then you move right. But if you just go back to the left, where you're not expected to go, you go to your original room and it has some secrets there.
I wonder a lot of that.
Yes. So that type of stuff.
Yeah. I also have to mention the musicality of the stages. Like, not only is there great music to this too, and honestly, it's surprisingly one of those games where I think I could just listen to the music itself. It's soundtrack quality music to this game.
Really?
You could just download some of these tracks. They're very, they have that tribal thing going on, but they sound more, I don't know. Full. Yeah, that's a good way to pull it. It sounds like a real full tribal band playing this stuff, and they all fit in with the music. Everything in the background moves to it too. Like it almost feels like the trees are almost moving in time with the music as you go through the stages.
That sounds really good. And that sounds like a lot more detail and care than I expected from this game, to be honest.
It is. Honestly, when you said that they had to bring this to Switch because not enough people played it on Wii U, I think that's so true, in that I feel that this game deserves to be experienced by more people. This is one of the best platformers I've ever played. Like, seriously, I'm not,
wow.
No hyperbola here. This is an incredibly designed, beautifully put together platformer in ways that I feel like even like a Mario game, and I like, no one's questioning Mario as like platformer king, but I feel like the level of detail just goes in so much deeper. The way I said, like, they don't just throw floating platforms with no reason here, or like, there's a lot of great mechanics in all the different stages of like a Mario type or a Kirby game, but this bothers to go that extra step as to why is that happening? What is the story behind it? How does your characters react? How do the background animals react to this volcano exploding? Just so much goes on that you feel like everything does belong in the game, and it's just really epic to watch.
That is such a glowing recommendation that I was not expecting.
Neither was I, honestly. I was not expecting it either. I was not expecting to really fall in love with this as a platformer.
Now, I have 2 questions for you.
Okay.
So, question number 1. This game costs $60, but I believe the original Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze on the Wii U was about $50 or $40. Do you think it was worth getting full priced again, even though it was available on the Wii U?
I don't ever like weigh that. I don't see why that would weigh unless you have bought this on Wii U. I don't think the old price is relevant.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's that. I just wanted to pose that question because I believe there was a bit of controversy regarding the pricing of this game.
I mean, I can see why some people who bought it on Wii U might feel that way, but I feel like the only reason, if you have it on Wii U, you probably don't need to play it on this, because the graphics do look nicer, sure. I think the only real add-on would be the Funky Kong mode. So maybe if you couldn't beat it on the Wii U version and you need to play it with Funky Kong, then it's worth buying on here. But honestly, if you have it on Wii U, this is not a game that you need to have on Switch.
Right. But if you haven't, then it's a glowing recommendation.
Totally. No, honestly, I think this is like pretty much one of those like must-own if you like platformers at all. Like if you're not into platformers, then fine. I won't say you have to have it, but me as a non-platformer type of guy, I totally fell for this game. And I'll even say like the boss battles. Here's one of the things. Like in most of these games, you fight a cool looking boss, you figure out his pattern, and you do it. You hit, usually like in a Mario game, you'll hit the boss 3 times, and that's the battle. Maybe they have like a second form or a harder variation. With this, even the bosses go from level to level. Like you'll fight one pattern, you'll hit him a couple of times, and then he shifts into a totally different pattern. He'll take the battle, or he'll take the battle to another location, and it gets harder, and he throws new twists at you constantly, and you don't just do it 3 times in a row and it's over. It's like you have to fight for at least, like, I'd say at least a 5-minute battle sometimes, which is actually pretty long for these type of games.
For a platformer of this style. Yeah,
totally I think I was very satisfied with the boss battles too, and they like I said, they all were very, challenging and characteristic.
Okay. So my last question, Casey, did it have the classic Donkey Kong Country theme song in it?
Oh, it's in there. It works it in a lot of the same. Yeah. Yeah. No, it is worked in there in a few different ways. It's playing in the background during the opening. A lot of the when you beat a stage fanfare that plays in a more updated version, that
Yeah. So this game would have been canceled if it didn't have that.
Okay, I understand. Yes, and like I said, I was no huge proponent of the series for the other games, and I still recognize those songs, and like those are very memorable.
Yeah, absolutely. So good to hear. And honestly, I'm really excited to hear how enthusiastic you are about it.
Yeah, no, totally. I will probably try to beat this before I move on to the next thing, but
yeah.
And I have a very long game. I don't have time to review it this week. I am playing Yonder, the Cloudcatcher Chronicles, which should be coming out the day this posts this podcast. I will just give my general impression is it's a combination game of Wind Waker and Stardew Valley. It has kind of like a mix of like those two genres there. Interesting
That
game.
sounds incredible, actually.
It's an interesting thing. I'm gonna try to get into it. So I will try to talk about that next week, as I have a lot to dissect with that, because those are two genres, both of which are time intensive games.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, so why don't you finish off our game time and tell us about this lock, stock, and barrel game you've been playing, Immortal Redneck.
Yeah, so I've also been playing Immortal Redneck, which, sounds like such a strange title.
It is a weird sounding title.
Yes. So the premise of the game is that you're a redneck and you're dead.
Just any old redneck, huh?
You're just any old redneck. And you die, and for some reason, Egyptian gods bring you back to life, and now you're immortal mummy redneck. And you're shooting up random creatures inside pyramids for some reason.
Okay.
The premise is nonsensical, and it's honestly not particularly important. The game itself is an FPS dungeon crawling roguelike, which, I guess that would be the quickest description. And interestingly enough, roguelike FPSs are actually kind of a genre of its own now.
Really? What else? What other titles are in that genre?
I was looking into this, and there are a lot of titles that are roguelike FPSs. So I believe there's like Tower of Guns, Mother Gunship, which is a space-based roguelike FPS. There's Gunhead. It's a thing.
A lot of gun titles.
I noticed that too, but I guess they kind of wanted to make sure people knew that there were guns.
Are any of those on Switch, or those are on like other platforms?
I don't know. The ones I see are on other platforms, but these are, they could possibly be on the Switch in the future, or they might already. But I haven't looked into the Switchness of it, but I just know that this is a thing. So ultimately, this is an FPS roguelike, and the object of the game is for you to explore, go inside of a pyramid, go through the dungeons to get to the end of the pyramid and beat it. And then it becomes a loop in its own. So you wander into pyramids, which only has one unlocked in the beginning, kill monsters with your guns until you either die or complete the pyramid, and it becomes a loop from there. Whenever you're going through a stage, you'll find pathways to get to higher floors, and each floor is essentially its own level. So I wouldn't really call the pyramids procedurally generated, because each floor is a very deliberately designed stage that you fight through. But the floors themselves, as you progress up the pyramid, are random. So you might get floor A, and then floor F and floor Y as the stage, or your next run through you might get floor C, floor X, and floor D.
Okay, so you get a random selection of pre-made levels.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. And so you fight through different enemies, and they're all really weirdly Egyptian themed, like jackal archers or eyeball floating things with legs that pop up from rubble on the floor, to little frogs that jump at you, to ghosts that shoot at you. So it's all thematic enemies, and you're just going through the stages and fighting them.
Okay.
The controls are pretty standard FPS controls, and the entire experience is pretty straightforward. Now, what makes this game interesting is that it is a roguelike. So once you complete a stage, or once you die, you go back to your spawn points, your spawn hub, and from there you can customize your weapons, you can customize what you bring, and you can even level up your character through a skill tree.
Okay. So you so you can unlock little abilities and stuff.
Yes, right. And what you unlock, you can even unlock different favors for specific gods, and that changes the fundamental gameplay that you have. For example, there's a god Apis who gives you your tank-like abilities and gives you more healing and a temporary invincibility power, while Sekhmet gives you faster movement and a lightning power. So you can change up how you approach the game based on what favor you focus and what weapons you equip. And ultimately from there, at the end of each pyramid, you fight a boss. And the bosses are designed to be pretty interesting. Like, the first boss I ran into was called a pharaoh. And he's essentially just a big, being. And you have to kill a bunch of sarcophagi in the side of the stage in order to make him vulnerable for you to shoot at. And it's that type of boss.
Okay, so they're not like totally just straightforward shoot me before I shoot you sort of things.
Right. So there's a different quirk based on the bosses, but
is there an overall progress that you're trying to make in the game? Is there some sort of end goal that you're working towards?
It's a roguelike that doesn't really seem to have any sort of end goal.
Okay.
The gameplay loop is essentially customize your character, go into the pyramid, shoot a bunch of enemies, go to the next level, shoot a bunch of enemies, die or kill the boss, get to the hub, go back to the hub, upgrade your character, go into another pyramid.
Okay, now is there any kind of like challenge ramp, like as you're powering up your character, when you start a new run of the game, are you still fighting like the weak enemies for a while before you get up to hard stuff, or do you start at the harder things? That's
actually a good question. I didn't really notice any specific difficulty ramps. I played for a couple of hours, and it does kind of slog in the beginning because you are very underpowered at the start, and it really feels that way. But once you start getting more abilities and weapons available to you, it does feel like you're getting stronger while your enemies aren't really scaling with you.
Okay.
I don't know if after a certain point it just spikes in difficulty to match, but that is the impression that I got from my experience so far.
Okay. Were there any other modes? Is there like a multiplayer option or anything like that?
There weren't really any other modes. It was just this gameplay loop. And I do have to say, it is a fun gameplay loop. There is a lot of customizability to your character that I didn't expect initially from this type of game. The controls feel like a very solid FPS. The movement and the aiming felt like a solid first-person shooter. You know how in subpar FPSs, everything feels a little clunky and movement feels a little muddy? It feels very competent in this one.
What about, like, now, I'm guessing, just from the name and the theming, this game tries to play a little bit on the humor angle. Does it actually, like, keep delivering the humor levels throughout?
Yeah, that is a very good question. There is not that much dialogue, but there is a lot of quips that your characters, say.
Okay.
You don't have any NPCs to riff off of, so it's really just essentially Duke Nukem, talking to himself.
Okay.
The problem is the redneck character that you are is super annoying.
Oh, really?
None of what he says is funny, and interestingly enough, he actually curses a lot.
Okay.
He drops F-bombs all the time, and it doesn't feel necessary whatsoever. And in fact, I ended up just turning down the voice because it was just that annoying. So ultimately, the fact that it's a redneck is kind of irrelevant to this whole situation. You could have been an Egyptian, spirit or something else, literally anything else.
He could have just been a Viking, a Viking owl man.
Yeah, I think they just wanted to be cheeky and be like, "Oh, Immortal Redneck, haha, this is so clever and unique," but it's irrelevant to the experience, in my opinion.
Okay.
But yeah, so overall, I actually liked the graphics of this game.
I was going to ask, because I remember the trailers look very over the top with like crazy like effects and explosions and all that.
Yeah. So the art, and I'm not saying the art style, but the way the models are built feels like a step up from standard indie games. And it's very comparable to maybe early Wii U or late Wii graphics.
Okay.
And pairing the very solid control scheme with the graphics that don't feel like they're encumbered by a smaller game studio, the experience is fun. The loop is actually quite enjoyable. Now the problem, of course, is that it is just a loop. The game feels kind of like a skeleton, and there's not that much when it comes to a varied experience. And there's no real story to hook you from progressing. So it's a roguelike at heart without any progression or pull.
Okay, so you kind of feel like you'd like there to be something to work towards long term.
Right, exactly. You can inherently set goals for yourself by with the skill trees and the upgrades, but there's no other motivator to push you forward. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. If you want to hop into a quick FPS experience without much investment, this could work out for you. And for $20, if you're looking for an FPS that's has no real need for deep investment, this might be something you would want to look into.
Oh, yeah, for a $20 game, I could see that. Yeah, just giving you the experience, get into it, shoot stuff up, and whenever you feel like turning it on, and just no need to worry about what came before or what's coming out after.
Right. I would recommend it if you know what you're getting into.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds cool.
Yeah. That's Immortal Redneck.
All right.
Also, yeah, I definitely want to emphasize there's a lot of cursing, so this would probably not be something you'd want to play with your kids.
All right. Always a good warning on our podcast. Yes. I appreciate it.
Oh, definitely.
All right. Well, why don't we put the redneck to rest, and let's move on to the news rundown.
Let's do it.
Right now, I'm in a state of mind. I wanna be in like all the time. Ain't got no tears left to cry. So I'm picking it up, loving, I'm living, I'm picking it up, I'm loving, I'm living, I'm
All right, news rundown, and here are your headlines. Did you see, once again, our boy Jimmy Fallon just loves bringing the Switch presentations to the show.
Yeah, he's definitely a Nintendo fanboy, and you can tell.
Yeah.
And I can't blame him. We're fans of Nintendo ourselves, as evidenced by this podcast.
Yes, it's fair to say.
If y'all haven't seen it yet, there is a viral video going around with the Roots Gang, Jimmy Fallon, and Ariana Grande playing her new single using Nintendo Labo.
Yeah, and not just the ones that come in the kits. He actually inquired about making new, unique Toy-Cons. And in addition to programming the robot kit, the fishing line, and all the other Toy-Cons to use as musical instruments, and of course the keyboards are in there too, they have a guitar that was custom made and programmed to work for this as well.
Yeah, this is so nuts. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of Ariana Grande's music, but the way they incorporated Labo with her modern, pop song was incredibly impressive to me, Casey.
No, it was, and it didn't come off gimmicky. It sounded legit. I think that they presented it really well. Like, Jimmy, he can't help but to do his little looks to the camera of look what I'm doing. Isn't this so awesome and nerdy? He can't contain himself because he's just so into it. But other than that, it's done pretty straight laced. Like they are just legitimately playing their instruments and she's singing along.
Yeah, it looks like they were having a good time and having fun with it. And, it's just a great display of the potential of Labo. And I'm really curious who it was that programmed the Toy-Con Garage to set up these instruments for them. I'm really interested to see that.
Yeah, I would actually like them to show off the
a
program.
Making of, maybe?
Yeah, right, yeah. The making of would be really great, yeah. Not just the programs, and how they made that whole guitar one there, because an original Toy-Con is something also pretty interesting to me as well there. And I don't know, I can, like I said, we've said this before, this has huge cultural clout. It has a lot of potential to keep appearing in ways like this. And right now, I think, musical instruments definitely seem like a great starting point for it. And
cardboard is just such an open canvas for creativity. Combining something like this with, the USPS Toy-Con container, this cardboard creation is just so It's just so diverse in what it could do. And I'm so excited to see other companies, use Labo in interesting ways.
We also got a new trailer for the final, it seems like, for the Octopath Travelers.
Oh, yeah, you're hyped for this. That's for sure.
Totally. I mean, this is my next, big game that I at least expect. Because they keep throwing games that I don't, I go into not expecting to love, but I do. But this is the next game I'm planning to be really hyped about. And that's Octopath Travelers, yeah. And in this one, we got to see the final two characters, Cyrus the Scholar and Ophelia the Cleric. His ability is the Scrutinize, where sounds like he picks apart details, or he gets more information out of people. And Ophelia can guide people, because she has her clerical guidance kind of personality, and she brings people around. And that also, she could use that to bring people to where they need to be for certain side quests or, little events to happen in game.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah. Oh, and then they showed off how all their talents kind of come together in actual gameplay battle, not just in the storyline, where Scrutinize lets him study foes in battle, so he can actually, I guess, look at their weaknesses or hit points, that kind of stuff. There was the Chemist we talked about before. He can concoct potions during battle. You can summon the people that you have following you with guide, or the Dancer's allure ability, a whole bunch of things like that. So that was pretty cool. And they finally, though, addressed what I was curious about, is the way the stories are going to tie together. They didn't totally spell it out for me, but it sounds like you're going to pick a main character that you're going to start the story as, and the other stories sound like you can optionally go into and experience all the chapters of everybody else. And they specified you can see all the storylines completely in one playthrough, so you don't have to start the game over.
Yeah.
That's the main thing, I think, for a lot of people. But it did sound like you don't have to do their stories.
That's pretty cool. I do like that that's an available option for you. Just because some people might not want to have to replay the game all over again just to see another character's story.
Right, and so you don't have to re-level up characters, and maybe there's one character that you just don't care about at all, and you can just skip their chapters.
And, now that they revealed all the characters, it's confirmed they spell Octopath.
Yep, it's very clever.
It would have been really funny if they didn't, if just one of the characters.
If it was just one guy. And then there's Leon.
Yeah, and so it spells Octopaddle or something.
Good one.
As another news snippet, apparently you will be able to reserve your spot to play Super Smash Bros. Switch at E3 this year.
Yeah. Are you going to E3, JV?
No, I'm not going to go to E3. But this is a reservation system that they have for conventions, and I believe they debuted it at PAX East this year, because you got to try this out when we were at PAX East. For this, you're going to get an email if you are registered for E3. They're going to send you an email on June 5th, and they're going to have details on how to actually apply for the e-ticket that way, and with the available slots. Then you'll get that QR code, and that's what you're going to use to get in. So it's similar to what they did at PAX, but at PAX, you lined up in advance and got your QR code physically. It sounds like this, you're going to have to register through the email, and then they'll send you the code. Overall, I think it's a really good direction for E3, and I think all companies should try to do a pre-queuing system like this.
Anything that saves us time from waiting on lines is really a good idea. It benefits everybody. It makes sure you know if you can get in on it, and you have a set time. You don't have to wait online. You can go explore other things. You go there. You can play the game for your window, and it makes everybody happier. Honestly,
absolutely.
There's no reason to have lines. Honestly,
because waiting
good planning like this,
3-4 hours for a 15-minute demo, regardless of whether you're looking forward to the game or not, it's kind of sours the experience by the time you get to the front.
All right. Also, another big news for this week. Okay, so they were it started this week with rumors, little details being dropped by a few of the more prolific Nintendo info leakers in the past about the next Pokemon Switch game. And it sounds like we should be getting more details in the next few weeks, but then Nintendo went and registered trademarks for Let's Go Pokemon, or Pokemon Let's Go.
Yeah, it has trademarks for Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu.com.
Right.
So we don't really know that much about this.
And all we know is like they suggested that the branding of this game will, quote, raise a few eyebrows, and so I guess this is why people are partly thinking it might have something to do with the Pokemon Go, because it's Pokemon Let's Go, and it might not even be the title. This might be an unrelated, like a side game that they're about to announce. Yeah. Or it could be details on the next, mainline game.
I don't feel like this is related to the mainline games. I feel like they're really going to stick with a color scheme, or something more distinct for the new generation Pokemon games. This feels like a side thing to me.
I'm gonna say I'm in agreement that this topic here is going to be some sort of side game, like maybe like the mystery dungeon type games or something, like something not the mainline stuff.
I'm wondering if it's maybe like a Tamagotchi style game but with Eevee or Pikachu. It sounds like it could possibly be something like that.
Maybe
like
it would be nice if it was. It would be nice if it was some sort of maybe like a simulation, like raising type game. And I can imagine a few ways that this could integrate, or any Pokemon game could integrate with Pokemon Go, but I'm going to save that for the Community Pulse, and we'll hear your answers to that very question, and we'll share our own at the same time.
Definitely.
So I'm calling this story Mushroom Kingdom Warriors because Koei Tecmo has expressed interest in working with the Mario license now that they're done doing a Fire Emblem Warriors game and Hyrule Warriors. They might have their eyes, it sounds like, on the Mushroom Kingdom.
I mean, I guess I could see it. You can see Mario maybe doing gigantic sweeping attacks against masses and masses of Goombas and Koopas.
Yeah, I could see the Goombas, the Koopas, armies of Toads. You can go into the other worlds too. Like there was like the Bean Kingdom from the the Superstars story, and there's actually a lot of worlds in the Mario universe that they can pull all the characters from, and they could have Paper Mario characters in it too. Like they could just go really weird with it.
They could. It's a little weird because regardless of them being Nintendo franchises, Fire Emblem and Legend of Zelda are very distinctly fantasy, and I would not expect Mario to be a Muso warrior style game, but if anyone can pull it off, probably Koei Tecmo can.
Honestly, I think I'm more interested in seeing this than I would be at Hyrule Warriors.
I would definitely be interested in seeing how they pull this off. It's just not one I would expect.
Yeah, I could see that. But it's all there. I could see like the warp pipes being a way to get around the map quickly. I can see like, chain chomps guarding a whole area. Like those could be like the things that guard the gates where, things come out. And there's just the endless supply of monsters and mini bosses they could pull from.
It's just, it's so very heavily melee focused. And I'm wondering what they would do for multiple melee attacks for Mario. Are they going to be punches and spins and kicks and jumps?
Throwing shells. They can have, getting the boot.
Yeah,
Tanuki swings his tail.
Well, it's going to be interesting. I want to see how this progresses now.
Okay.
It's going to be interesting if it happens.
We got some more details on Mario Tennis Aces, and they showed off the adventure mode.
You will be surprised at how hyped people are for this game on Discord, Casey.
I'm a little surprised. I mean, I'm when I see the game, I'm not really surprised, but the people are clinging on to this title like it's the new coming of Mario Kart. Honestly, I think people see this as like the next competitive, sports-ish kind of game that they can all get into tournament mode with each other.
Which makes total sense considering how popular ARMS and Rocket League are within our community. I feel like Mario Tennis Aces is going to be that next tournament game.
And they showed off the non-tournament mode, though, the one-player story mode, basically, which looks like it actually has it looks like they made this a centerpiece of the game just as much as the multiplayer.
Yeah, I really like how diverse the stages are. They're really stretching the lengths of the tennis mechanics and really going crazy with how you interact with your enemies and what your goal is during a tennis match.
I just thought that looked crazy. There's that one scene we see where there's the portal floating around, and when you hit it in one hole, it comes back at you through another portal at the same time.
And the portals are shifting. And then there's also, you having to attack specific piranha plants and aiming and using an aiming system. There's even a boss that you fight, which is a gigantic piranha plant. It looks really diverse, and there's just a lot more depth to this than I expected.
Also, the story being it's Mario saving Luigi. I mean,
yeah, that's a cool difference.
I'm a little sad. Luigi's the damsel in distress.
I mean, makes sense now. Makes
what?
sense.
Why does it make sense? Because
Luigi's Luigi. What a lame-o.
Look. Just let's stop talking right there.
He's a little cowardly dude.
I am a Luigi supporter through and through.
Oof. Maybe that's why you mispronounce Mario so much.
That's right. It's out of hate. That's right. I'm a
mystery solved, folks.
I'm a Luigi fan.
Either way, there's still a lot of hype coming up for Mario Tennis Aces, and there will be an online tournament demo on June 1st.
Yeah, so we can all try that out, and we will see, and there will be prizes for participating, so you don't have to win to get some cool rewards. Though apparently one of the rewards is just being able to play as Mario in his normal
classic outfit.
Yeah,
which is okay, sure,
okay.
I'll take it. I'm disappointed they didn't call it a test something though.
That's true. They're not losing the theme. Test shot? A test serve.
Test serve, test shot, test spike. What Either way.
Test volley.
Anyway, there's also a new Taiko Drum Master controller for the Nintendo Switch, which honestly makes sense to me. I love Taiko Drum Master. Have you played it, Casey?
I was a fan of it. All the ones I used to have, though, I feel like got busted very quick. They stopped reading knocks at certain angles, so I want to try this out, but I'm going to be looking at it very critically to see if it holds up over time, because I feel like mine, maybe people hit it too hard, but I don't think so. I just feel like it did not stand up to wear and tear over the long period.
Right. Who knows? Maybe production and manufacturing has improved over the years, and now we're getting a quality Taiko Drum Master controller.
I mean, that was a long time ago. I don't remember what system was Taiko Drum Master for last. I played it.
Dreamcast? I don't know. PlayStation?
Probably a PlayStation. I feel like I played it on one of the PlayStation 2.
That makes sense. Peripherals were kind of poopy back then.
I'll go with it. Okay, so we also got a flood of other trademarks that Nintendo filed for, some of which are normal, some of which got people to raise an eyebrow, I would say. In addition to, Super Smash Bros., Star Fox, F-Zero, which people are starting to link together in some weird ways we'll get to in a minute. Pikmin, Yoshi's Island, Art Style, Flipnote Studio, Sin and Punishment, the legendary Starfy, Nintendogs, which I could see coming out in a little eShop-y kind of title there.
Yeah.
Link's Crossbow Training, and Wii Fit, Wii Music, Wii Play, and Wii Sports.
Those are names I haven't heard in a long time.
I really do. Yeah, it's fun. And the fact that they're Wii just means that, they might have just done it for the sake of, some brand that they own that they want to keep it for. But I think they could morph all those. I think if they turned it to Labo Sports, Labo Play, Labo Music, Labo Fit.
Yeah. Labo Sin and Punishment.
Labo Sin and Punishment. But anyway, those are all things that just get people's imagination flowing. And particularly, I was saying, people are starting to suspect that there might be a Star Fox Grand Prix, like a Mario Kart or F-Zero style racing game of Star Fox.
That actually makes sense. I wonder if that's going to be a thing.
It's right now, the reasoning for why they think it's coming is a little loose in that I think one of the endings of Star Fox Zero kind of jokes about it. Okay, updates. We got a new mode coming. Well, a new mode was revealed for Splatoon 2, the expansion, the Octo expansion pack. And there's going to be like a single-player Rainmaker mode.
Yeah, this is kind of nuts. I don't think anyone was really expecting this, but it's cool to be able to use the Rainmaker in a single-player mode. Very cool.
I honestly need the practice, because whenever I get that thing, I feel like I have no idea how to use it or what... It's very unwieldy. I mean, by design, it's a powerful but unwieldy weapon, so I do appreciate the chance to get more use out of it.
Yeah.
And in the finals, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Splatfest, we have the two winners are going head-to-head this coming weekend between the 18th and 19th, and it is down to Raphael and Donatello for anyone who wants to fight for the final. I knew Mikey wasn't going to make it. I knew he's like the least popular, I feel like.
I'm surprised. I didn't expect Donatello to be as popular as he is. Just because whenever I hear stories of people wanting to play and pretend to be Ninja Turtles as a kid, hardly anyone ever actually wanted to be Donatello.
No one said they wanted to be Donatello, but they all secretly
wanted to. I was the one who was like, I'm Donnie. I'm Donatello. I call dibs. And so it's Raphael versus Donatello in the finals. So go Team Donnie. Go Team Donnie.
Rocket League, we got some new content coming for that, including a new arena and some new music options and a new competitive season coming out. All right, new releases. JV, tell us what's coming out this week.
All right, so on May 17th today, we are getting Fox and Forests, Framed Collection, Yonder, The Cloudcatcher Chronicles, then Banner Saga, Invisibles, Ice Cream Surfer, Faerun Collection, White Knight, Johnny Turbo's Arcade, Super Burger Time. On May 18th, we're getting Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition, Little Nightmares Complete Edition, Henry the Hamster Handler, and May 22nd, we're getting Runner 3, Mega Man Legacy Collection 1 and 2, NBA Playgrounds 2, and Disco Dodgeball Remix.
Yes, and we might be trying that out. You're going to probably try that out on the. They're having a multiplayer kind of test
a demo
run
on a different console, and I might try that out and let you know how that goes. All
right, and I'm going to try the one-player mode out as we prepare for its release. But
Absolutely.
The multiplayer is really where it's at, so
totally.
you're going to get the real taste of that game.
Oh yeah, nice, good taste.
Down the pipe, we're proud to announce that we went on a limb, and I remember we previewed Valhalla. I think we played like the PC version or something like that.
Yeah, we did play the PC version.
And we talked about it, just assuming they would announce it for Switch. We kind of had the vibe, and it has been confirmed. Valhalla, the bartender simulation visual novel in the cyberpunk world, is coming to Switch. No release date yet, but it will. They have confirmed they're bringing it over.
Yeah, we totally called it, Casey. I'm so proud of us.
Sometimes you just know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Punch Club, which is a cool boxing simulator but with a storyline where you're controlling, some guy trying to find out the story behind his father's murder while you're working your way through the boxing world.
Yeah, you made a really good point about this game. It has a really dark undertone, but it plays around with it humorously. So
yeah, there's a lot of comedy and like silly stuff going on in this game too. So. Bloodstained Curse of the Moon, which is the Castlevania kind of reimagining, which is also coming out May 24th. N++, the Minecraft Bedrock Edition is got a release date for June. Speed Brawl, which is coming out in summer. Okami HD, which is getting a release date August 9th in Japan. Not 100% sure when it's coming out here, but probably around then. And they also announced it's going to get a limited edition as well as the standard edition option.
Yep.
Catriel Layton is also coming to Japan August 9th. That is our Professor Layton, I guess the sequel / spin-off series of this one is Layton's Mystery Journal, Catriel and the Millionaire's Conspiracy DX. So I'm getting a Professor Layton game here.
Yeah, there you go. Do you like Catriel?
I like her design. I think she's a cool character. I haven't seen her actual character in game because I haven't played any of her games yet because I've been waiting for them to come to Switch.
Here it is.
And here it is. So I'm going to get my real first impressions of her there. The talking dog weirds me out a little bit. I'm not sure if I'm totally on board with that, but all right.
Yeah.
Little Dragon's Cafe is coming out this summer with limited edition version. Beyblade Burst Battle Zero was announced. Warlock of Firetop Mountain. I'm interested in this. This is one of those choose your own adventure books with RPG elements added in. It's been out on a bunch of things before, but they're finally bringing it to a Switch. It's a very classic series.
Oh, yeah.
The original Guilty Gear.
Whew.
Yeah. Paladins was announced. This is the game that's been commonly called Overwatch clone.
Yeah.
So we might have an Overwatch type game coming to Switch if this is true.
To be honest, I'd play it. I'd play it if it comes out on the Switch.
That's it. 303 Squadron, Battle of Britain, Alwa's Awakening coming in summer. Gunvolt Chronicles, Luminous Avenger X was announced to be in development. Anything in the Gunvolt series, it gets me hyped. And this is actually really cool looking. Looks like just another one of the Gunvolt games, but I guess they're making a new addition to the series, but specifically for Switch, whereas the others were the 3DS games brought over to Switch.
They knew that the Switch was the future for their franchise.
It looks pretty awesome. It still looks like the same style, like it's the same kind of graphics as the other titles they've been bringing out.
Of course.
And Crystal Crisis coming in autumn. This is basically a puzzle fighter game with the different characters from the Nicholas pantheon, plus a few other little additions like
Astro Boy.
Like Astro Boy, yeah, right.
I guess.
Hey, and it has a whole bunch of other cast of characters. Some I recognize, some I do not. But, puzzle fighting. People like it. All right, let's go into the Community Pulse and talk about our system switch after that.
Let's do it.
All right, Community Pulse, let's just get right into it and read your answers to our topic of the week. We asked you guys what you felt about the possible integration of Pokemon Go with the next Pokemon game that was announced or that could be coming out soon, and possibly how you could see it happening or how they would actually enact such a crossover.
So I will read our guest from last week. Edward Galvan. I doubt it will integrate with Pokemon Go. My guess is that it will be a 3D style game and will incorporate a much larger region than what we are used to in past Pokemon games. So he doesn't think it'll integrate with Pokemon Go, though I know a lot of people who at least are hoping for that to be the case.
I think that I have heard that right now it seems like they're going to be focusing on the Kanto region, that it's going to be coming back to Kanto.
Which honestly makes sense. If they're essentially rebooting the franchise on the Switch, starting back at Kanto is a great way to do it.
Ooh, that's interesting. The way you say that, though, like rebooting the series. Is it possible they are doing something like that, where this isn't just a continuation or an evolution? Maybe they're going to really work it from the ground up again and reboot it in a way.
I think it's very possible.
It could be possible, especially considering, after the last game doing all that alternate history stuff and all the weird dimensional things going on.
Alternate dimensions that was explored in the Delta.
They could just be like, hey, this is the Pokemon story in one of those alternate dimensions.
Yeah, I don't see why not. I think that's a really good way to justify a reboot.
Jeff Kappenberg wrote, Integration with Go is something people have been hoping for a while. Making the act of catching Pokemon more engaging than a menu selection is something we're overdue for. What I don't want is inspiration from Go's comically underdeveloped battle system, or the idea that you need to pander to a specific age group's nostalgia by including only Kanto Pokemon. Pokemon is an RPG at its core, not a merchandise brand like Hello Kitty.
Pokemon is kind of a merchandise brand nowadays. There's so much merch for it. But you're right. Pokemon is an RPG at its core.
I do think, I don't think the game is going to incorporate features from Pokemon Go. Obviously, Pokemon Go has that
streamlined, simplistic style intentionally.
That's one way of putting what I was going to say as barely a battle system.
No, I agree. Okay, yes.
It is like scarcely a game when you play it. But the way I see it actually being integrated would be maybe almost like the Pokewalker from a long time ago. I could see people being able to transfer a Pokemon to walk around with as your buddy Pokemon in the app, and that building up affinity, maybe being able to level it up in some ways, or earn it items, earn it some sort of extra things by bringing guys into that game.
Yeah, actually, Christopher Uhrig, which is last week's guest, brought up something about Bluetooth as well. So he said, integration with Go would be amazing if Nintendo can pull it off successfully. It really makes me wonder about the NFC cards you guys talked about 2 weeks ago. With the Switch being as portable as it is, maybe Nintendo can integrate some sort of Bluetooth tethering device, so when earning Go rewards, it'll also reward you in the Pokemon Switch.
Okay, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, so Bluetooth is a commonality between Pokemon Go and Nintendo Switch. And I wonder if they can directly interact with each other through Bluetooth, or maybe use a middleman device that would allow them to continue corresponding. If anything, I suspect there could be a chance that any Pokemon you catch in Pokemon Go might transfer over to the Switch version. That might be possible. The NFC cards are also a commonality that a lot of phones nowadays can take advantage of.
That's not bad. No, that's a technical key to getting it to work in an interesting way. That's not bad.
Yeah. For me, I honestly think the most feasible integration would be something like Pokemon Bank. Mm-hmm. So maybe if there's an external third-party cloud system that hosts your Pokemon, like in Pokemon Bank, maybe Pokemon Go could talk to that and then transfer it over to the Switch version. I do feel like a middleman, something has to be there.
And I'm going to close this one with PKJ1980 on Twitter. He wrote, I'm completely okay with this so long as it isn't just Pokemon Go on Switch, but minus GPS and camera functionality. I seriously don't think that's something they would do.
Yeah, no, I don't think Pokemon Go is anything without the GPS aspects.
Right. If it just utilizes some aspects or even communicates with Pokemon Go somehow, but still gives a full and thorough Pokemon experience to players, I'm sold.
I honestly do not think Pokemon Go will have any bearing on Pokemon Switch's fundamental gameplay.
No,
If they're going to integrate, it's going to be something relatively minimal, like transferring Pokemon or transferring items or passing rewards back and forth.
Oh, you know what it could be? One thing I could see is tying in, we have the quest system now in Pokemon Go.
Right.
I could see that tying into getting items for the main
Switch
game.
Version?
In the Switch version, like, oh, hey, if you want to get, let's say, this shard or maybe this hold item, you can get a quest in the game that transfers to the app. And it's like, all right, you want another like shiny scale or something like that to evolve this guy, or maybe there's an XP egg, things like that nature could be your rewards. And then to accomplish the quest in the game, you have to go and do it in Pokemon Go. Or even items like what are those things you needed again to max out IVs in the last
bottle
game?
Caps.
Like bottle caps, that could be really good end game stuff, and they could have some really tough challenges, but rather than just grinding bosses endlessly for them in the game to get the bottle caps, go out and do a mission, throw throw 3 great throws against or catch 3 legendaries, and we'll give you some bottle caps.
Yes, that definitely sounds feasible. And honestly, I think that's probably the most feasible integration between Switch and Go. And I definitely want to stress, I do not think the gameplay of Pokemon Go will translate to the Switch at all, or vice versa.
Yeah.
It's just, I feel like it really is just going to be the transfer of items or Pokemon or whatever.
All right, JV, can you close us out with our traditional system Switch? Do you have a title that has not come to Switch, or maybe never would, but you'd like to see on there?
Okay, so I've been playing, I'm going to admit this to everyone, I've been playing a lot of League of Legends.
Oh, okay.
It's one of those games where I play a lot of MOBAs. I play a lot of the big competitive games that are getting popular. So I played Overwatch. I played StarCraft when that was popular. I played Fortnite. And now I've been dipping back into League of Legends. And it really makes me want to play a MOBA on my Switch. So
are you going to try Arena of Valor?
Absolutely, I am. But something like League of Legends. I just want a MOBA on the Switch, and League of Legends is the most popular one. So
I do think a MOBA would be very good, and I will also be trying out Arena of Valor when it comes to. All right.
Yes. So that's my system Switch.
My pick is something I got into this mentality because of all the Norse characters from the Donkey Kong Country and the Vikings, and it started making me think of, very tangentially, but one of my favorite classic games from PS1 and eventually Vita, Valkyrie Profile, or Lenneth to be specific. I love the concept of this game. This is one of the most brilliant, just and original ideas, in that you play this Valkyrie and you're preparing Valhalla for Ragnarok. You're preparing for the battle at the end of the world. So you get sent down to Earth to recruit soldiers or heroes to fight for Valhalla. But the way you go about this is, what a Valkyrie does is they get people when they die and they recruit their souls. So every time you recruit a character, it's basically you just go and you watch a cutscene, and they can go on pretty long, some of them, but it's just a cutscene that shows you the last days of their life and what kind of mission they were on or what was happening in their story.
Wow.
But all of these characters die. That's the point. No matter what noble thing they were trying to do, their stories always end. They die. And then the Valkyrie comes at the end and just kind of like scoops them up, or sometimes she makes some sort of deal like, hey, there's like one great scene where she's like, someone's trying to rescue this potion that's the only thing that'll save this village from being turned to stone, but the character's just like was slashed and is about to die in her last moment. She's gonna break the vial by accident, and the Valkyrie just shows up and she's like, basically, if you agree to fight for Valhalla, I will make sure those people end up safe, and I will save this potion for them. But, if you say no, I'm just going to walk away and whatever. And the person's like, yeah, okay, I guess so. And like, so you have this like kind of nefarious method, but it's because you're doing this whole thing. But anyway, that's half the game. And then the other half of the game is actually going out, doing missions in this really great battle system, like a live action kind of, battle system, but it has a lot of RPG elements to it. And you have to train and grind these characters up, and then you actually have to send your characters off to Valhalla when they're powerful enough. So even though you're trying to level up and power your characters up, you have to send the ones that Valhalla wants away. So you might have really good characters that you want to keep, but at the same time, you have to get rid of them. So it's a great little mechanic. The game has a really great but obscure way to get the good ending. Like, there's a really great good ending.
It definitely seemed like one of those games that would do that.
It is. It's a very great story if you get it. It's almost not even that interesting if you don't get the good ending. It's very obscure how to get it. I was very annoyed that I had to play the game like 4 times and then finally looked up a FAQ how to do that. But it's still worth it. I would love to see it on the Switch. I think more people need to play one of the most original RPG action games ever, Valkyrie Profile.
So, what's interesting to me, Casey? I've noticed Our system switches have always been really contrasting timeline-wise. Like, my system switches are almost always, like, modern games that are kind of in the normal standard vernacular, and yours are always really classic old school games.
I'm trying to, since my mission is to I use this as my way of bringing to light games that people don't necessarily know exist, and I want to see them on here, you know?
And I guess
you're going from the angle of here's like the popular, awesome game that people on Switch might want to play.
You know, okay, there's another contrast of how we approach things, but I think it works out well.
All right, well, I'm glad it works out in some way at all.
Yeah. Anyways, until next time,
switch it up. Thanks for listening. You can support the SwitchCast by visiting us at patreon.com/theswitchcast and join the review crew by rating us and subscribing on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Also, check out our Discord chat where we have an enthusiastic bunch of Switch fans in a family-friendly environment. Also, join our Facebook group for daily discussion and quite a bit of activity towards the Switch itself.
You can also contact us directly via email at kc@theswitchcast.com and jv@theswitchcast.com. Talk to us on Twitter @theswitchcast.
Thank you, HeatleyBros, for the theme music. And check us out on our website at theswitchcast.com, where we will post all relevant links and show notes.
Promotional considerations provided by publishers in the form of review copies of games.
These freaks look like trouble.
They are no match for us. Finishing strike, round rip saber!